Alright guys, thanks for tuning back into the Scan Tool Network. In this video I'm going to just run through a few things, a few of the top reasons why the check engine light may well be showing in your Mercedes Benz. I'm just going to put my seatbelt on here just so there's no confusion. So that light's gone, that's the check engine light there. I see a lot of posts on forums and sort of Facebook pages where somebody's saying, you know, I've got a check engine light, what is the problem? And then below that you'll see replies saying, oh, it's definitely an O2 sensor, it's definitely a map sensor, it's definitely an ignition coil. And while sometimes they may well be correct, the chances of them being correct are quite slim. The reason being is because there are a lot of different components within the engine system, which I'm sure you'll probably know. A lot of components within the engine system of these Mercedes that would trigger a check engine light if one of them went faulty, okay? So just because somebody else has had a faulty ignition coil and they've had a check engine light doesn't necessarily mean that that's the same problem with your vehicle as well. And you may not like the true answer as to how to find out which is the cause of the check engine light, but you are going to have to spend some money. That's just a common thing with all cars. You need to spend a bit of money if you want to go ahead and fix these faults. So a few of the real issues that can happen with these Mercedes Benz. Best case scenario is going to be a sensor, because the sensors are relatively cheap to replace. You might, depending on the location of the sensor, you might need to maybe spend a bit of money and give it to a garage so that they can fit it, because sometimes they are quite tricky. Sometimes they can be done at a DIY level. It all really depends on your own level of expertise and how dirty you want your hands to get, you know. So a few of the things can be like a camshaft sensor, a map sensor, a MAF sensor, ignition coils, O2 sensor, spark plugs. It could even be a loose fuel cap, or it could be a faulty catalytic converter on the way out. Those are kind of like the best case scenarios, the group of best case scenario sensors. It could be, of course, be a bigger internal engine issue where you've got, you know, camshafts sort of like breaking apart, or much bigger issues within the block itself. The only way to find out, though, as I say, from that kind of list, and we've got a perfect example here. This is the MB version 1.0 tool, which we're going to use to show you how to diagnose that engine fault and how to turn it off as well. It's available at Diagnostic World. I'll put the link in the description below this video, in fact, but it's a really useful tool, and I'd honestly highly recommend it to anybody who does have a check engine light in their Mercedes, okay? So we're going to click into Diagnostics, and we're just going to go through the motions of selecting our vehicle. It's all relatively straightforward stuff. You can slow the video down and look at the screens in greater detail if you wish. But then we're going to find the engine control system, and it's going to give us an option to read fault codes once it's connected, okay? And this is really what you need to do in order to find out what the true problem with the check engine light is. So we're going to go read fault, get this a bit closer here, read fault code, and in this particular case we've got 2251 hot film mass airflow sensor. You notice how it's a historic, and it's also got intake, and we've also got a glow plug sensor as well, which is at fault. Now if the glow plug sensor, I would take that with a pinch of salt, because if that was a true fault, which was sort of commonly occurring, and it was a serious fault, then I think we'd have the glow plug light on. But I don't, well, we know this fault's been around for a while in this car, and it hasn't triggered the check engine light, but recently the check engine light has been triggered, and that's because we've got some new faults on. So these new faults are this one here, not that one, not that one. So it's the first two faults, okay? Now we've done some work off camera, we've looked at it, and we've decided that the mass airflow sensor, or the MAF, not to be confused with a map, the MAF, MAF sensor was at fault. So we put a new MAF sensor in. The car's running like a dream, in fact, even for having, what, 185,000 miles on the clock. But what we're going to do now is we're going to then clear the fault memory, so that's going to clear those codes, and we're going to basically ask the ECU. If the ECU is happy that the engine is running fine now and that fault has been fixed, it will turn the check engine light off. So we're going to go clear fault memory, click OK. So when I click OK to that, hopefully the check engine light will turn off. and it has. A raise operation done on screen. So in this particular case, we had a faulty MAF or mass airflow sensor in our vehicle, and like I say, it can be one of those faults that I've mentioned, but that's the best case scenario, because the sensors, they're not that expensive. They are in some cases relatively easy to fit yourself. In some cases you might need to get your hands a little bit dirtier, or indeed give it to a garage. But ultimately, it's not the end of the world if you get a check engine light, but I'd highly recommend getting one of these tools, because this can save you from replacing parts that don't need to be replaced in your Mercedes Benz. So I hope that has made some sense, and it maybe just gives you a bit of a better idea as to why the check engine light is on in your Mercedes. But if you are interested in this tool, I'd recommend using the link in the description below this video. It'll take you directly to the product on the website. There are fakes, there are clones, they can damage your vehicle. It's just not worth going down that route, but using the link will take you directly to the genuine and official product. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope this helps.